Right, what up? I'm gonna make a quick tutorial on how to restring a guitar, clean it up, get it going and looking pretty for the next time you want to play it here. So first thing, I have locking tuners on this guitar, so I will make sure to detension those screws on the tuning pegs so I can pull the strings out. Next, I'll start unwinding and taking tension off of each of the strings before I cut them. You want to make sure you have a good amount of slack in them before you cut them. Just like that. Then I'm going to go through and cut them. And first I will remove the cut strings from the top of the headstock, get them out from under their tuning pegs. And then once that's done, I'll go to the body and I'll take the other half out through the trem block. Sometimes some of the smaller strings will get stuck, so I use some of the thicker strings that I've cut earlier to kind of poke out the strings through the bottom. Once that's done, I will start wiping down the body and the headstock, cleaning areas where there were otherwise strings and makes it hard to clean. Once that's done, I'll start taking the saddles out. This will help me get under the bridge plate and help me clean it. When I take these pieces out, as soon as I take them out, I put them right back together how they would look if they were installed in the guitar. I do this so I don't lose track of any of the pieces later on. I also put them in order as how they appeared on the guitar because it's important to keep them in that same order when you put them back. And I will show you why in a second here. The reason is because each of these saddles are independently adjusted. See those screw threads there? They're independently adjusted to adjust string height. So it's important to put them back in the right order. Now I'll be going through with my body polish spray, spraying it a couple times on my rag, and just going back over the body of my guitar. Alright, now that we got that far, it's time to move on to the fretboard. This part I do here is optional, but I have a little scalpel blade that I stole from my biology class, and I use it to very lightly scrape the surface of my fretboard, getting rid of all the gunk that my hands leave on it after I play when I'm sweating so much. I try to take a lot of care in doing this part to really only be super light and only get the gunk on the surface of the fretboard as to not take off any excess rosewood. Once I'm done with the surface, I'll very lightly go right on the corners of each of the frets on either side of them to get out any more gunk that could be stored up in there. I flip my guitar to get at the frets from the other way. That's why I do that. Now I'm going back to the saddles and I'm going at them with a little toothbrush to clean out any dirt or debris that could have got in where the string seating surface is on them before I reinstall them. The correct order here is screw on the outside, then spring on the inside, and then the saddle. One thing I like to do here is put a towel down behind the bridge plate because I've jabbed this guitar with that screwdriver a couple times. And especially on Paul Reed Smith guitars, a jab in the body doesn't look all that good. Now that we have all of the saddles reinstalled, we're going to reinstall them to a standard height, which for this guitar, the scale length is 25 inches. So from the front of the nut to about the seating surface of the saddles, I'll measure 25 inches and adjust all accordingly to be 25 inches. Once we're done putting those back, it's time to go grab the fretboard oil and put about a drop on between each fret to really rehydrate the fretboard. You really want to make sure you work it all in and that there's no excess standing oil left anywhere. Now that we're done with that, we can move on to the strings. I just use normal, regular Slinky Ernie balls, 10 gauge. With this guitar, I have to feed the strings through the bottom. And for us right-handed players, it's pretty easy. The heavy strings, the heaviest, go closest to you when restringing, and the lightest ones will be on the lower end of the guitar, farthest from you when you're playing. Here I'm lining up the holes of my tuning pegs with the nut slots, so my strings will go in straight through the tuning pegs when I try to restring here. Making sure the string is taut all the way through. I don't want to have excess slack back in the trem bridge. For spacing reasons, I use 4 fingers on the first fret to give enough space. You like to have a couple windings around your tuning peg. Then I lock the string in place of my locking tuner, and with my right pointer finger, I hold the string down tight so that when I'm winding it here, it goes onto the tuning peg tight. You take the excess and first put it under the new string you're winding and continue to wind. And when you get back around, you should now have your new string wind under the excess to pinch the excess in place. And this is the same process with all 6 strings. It's important to make sure that all your strings come through the middle of the headstock, because this is a three on one side guitar tuning peg wise. It's important that all your strings go down the middle because it changes when you go to the high 3 strings. I then cut the excess strings off of each tuning peg, leaving not too much behind and securing all my locking tuners. Now that all the strings are in place, I'm going to tune the guitar up to pitch E, A, D, G, B, E using my clip-on tuner. The next thing you'll see me do here is with 2 rags, I'm going to grab each string individually and repeatedly stretch them, tune them up, and then stretch them, and then you'll see that they go flat, so you tune them up again. And you keep stretching them and keep repeating that process until the strings are no longer flat and stay in tune after you stretch them. This is a long process. I use rags because my hands are gross and it keeps the strings cleaner. Next thing you'll see me do here is set the intonation on this guitar to make sure that each note on each string on each fret plays in tune as it should. To do this, I first tune the open string up to pitch, play it, and then I lightly press my finger on the 12th fret of that same string or the octave and play the same note. If the note reads to the right or sharp, then I will take my screwdriver and tighten in or turn to the right my screwdriver on the nut associated with that saddle. And that's what I'm doing here. Once I stretch the string out, I'll retune it to pitch. Like so. I'll place my finger on the 12th fret, play the note again, and I see that it's all right. And I'll repeat this for all 6 strings.